At 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918, World War I was ended. After more than 4 years of bloodshed that killed more than 9 million soldiers and 18 million civilians, not counting millions of soldiers and civilians wounded physically and psychologically, emotionally. 100 years later, war and violence are still happening, not just in the Middle East, but also in our neighborhood. Studies show that there are more than 300 mass shootings so far in 2018. And within these past 10 days, we witnessed 2 mass shootings. One is at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, where we consider as sacred and safe space to worship, right? And the other at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks, where people pride to be the 3rd safest city in the nation. The gunman has killed 12 people, and many of them are college students, because it was a college night. So how do people feel about this? Delaney, one of my former students, she wrote on her Facebook, "My heart is hurt. I feel sick, angry, and in a state of shock. I don't really have words because I never thought this would happen in my little city, which is Thousand Oaks, until it did. 5 minutes from my house, where I grew up, where I live." Susan Orfanos, mother of shooting victims, Teme Kamas, said on ABC News, "I don't want prayers. I don't want thoughts. I want gun control. I hope to God no more send me any more prayers. I want gun control, no more guns." Telemarcus, her son, survived the Las Vegas shooting, but did not survive Thousand Oaks massacre. What about you and me? How do you and I feel about this endless mass shooting, violence, war in our nation, in our community? Do you feel like Ginger Ellen Biker, a high school biology teacher in Lawrence? She said, "My immediate reaction was another one. Here's another one. This is terrible, but I'm not incredibly surprised," unquote. Do you feel like me asking, what is the good news? Where's God in all this? What is God saying to you and me today? If you feel the sense of sadness, sick, angry, powerless, indifference, God has 2 good news for you and me today. 1, I'm with you. 2, give your life away. Because when you give your livelihood away, you will receive more. So the first one, in today's readings, we hear the story of the 2 widows who was considered as powerless, vulnerable, and marginalized in society. Both widows live in 9 centuries apart, but they share the same destiny: poor, powerless, vulnerable, because there was such things as social program or government support. And yet, in the midst of their powerless and desperation, they gave their livelihood away. And when they gave their livelihood away, they received much more. This is such a paradox, and it contradicts to our way of thinking, isn't it? And we are in a state of powerless, desperation, crisis, hopelessness. We should take care of ourselves first, right? But Jesus challenged you and me to give our lives away. We do have a crazy Jesus. In the first reading, we see a widow who lived in the time that the nation was at war with one another. King after king corrupted, and the nation is finally divided between north and south in 922 BC. The rich oppressing the poor, King Ahab married to Jezebel, who worshipped the pagan of Baal. And to make it worse, there was a drought. This is the situation the widow was living in. The widow was about to cook the last meal for her son and herself. And what happened? Elijah showed up. He said, "Can you give me a drink? Oh, by the way, can you bake me some bread too?" And the widow explained to Elijah, "I'm about to cook the last meal for myself and for my son. Then just in case you don't know, after that we will die because there was no more food or water." But Elijah insists, "Go bring me some water and bake me bread anyway, and God will take care of you." Right. Imagine that scene. What would you and I do in her situation? I don't know about you, but I am not sure whether I would give my food and drink away to the stranger when my son and I are starving. I imagine there was two voices in her head. One, I'm going to cook the last meal for my son and myself. Or two, I'm going to cook the last meal and give it to this stranger, Elijah. She chose the latter. In the midst of her desperation and powerless, she chose to give her livelihood away. And the result? She dies. No. When she gave her livelihood away, she receives much more. Second story, in the gospel, we see another widow who gave her last 2 coins. Nobody noticed except Jesus. And Jesus called his disciples and said to them, "Amen, I say to you, this poor widow put in more than all other contributors to the treasury, for they have all contributed from their surplus wealth, but she, from her poverty, has contributed all she had, her whole livelihood." Now, unlike the first widow, we don't know what happened to her after she gave her last 2 coins. Did she become beggars? Did Jesus tell his disciples to give her some coins? Or did she become Jesus' disciples? We don't know that. But we do know that Jesus noticed her. Jesus was with her. Jesus noticed her. And in the midst of her desperation and powerless, she gave her whole livelihood away. And when she gave her whole livelihood away, she received much more. You might think that's such a nice story, but it's only happened in the Bible. What about today? What about the mass shooting in Thousand Oaks? Where was God? Now, in the midst of chaos and violence, many people chose to give their livelihood away. Let me name 3. First, Justin Mick, 23 years old, actually from San Diego. He died in the process to save others. His mom wrote on the Facebook, and I quote, "According to numerous witness accounts, Justin, which is her son, died a hero, saving many lives with no regard for his own life," unquote. Second, Cody Kaufman from Camarillo had just 22 and was planning to join the army. And a friend, Sarah Nelson, 19 years old, said she believed that she survived because of Kaufman's quick reaction. She survived because of Kaufman's quick reaction. He was protecting everyone. He got up and just yelled, "Everyone run!" His father broke down when he told the reporter his name was Cody Kaufman, my firstborn son. And his voice was shaking and breaking. As he wiped out his tears and said, oh God, oh my son, I love you so much. "Oh, Heavenly Father, just please be with him." Cody died in the process. Third, Sergeant Ron Hillis. Members of Ventura County Sheriff's Office said the death toll might have been higher if not for Sergeant Ron Hillis. As the shooting unfolded, he chose to run inside, and he went in to save lives, to save other people. And in the process, he was killed. So what did Justin Meek, Cody Kaufman, and Sergeant Ron Hillis have in common? In the midst of chaos, desperation, and violence, they chose to give their lives away so that other people may live. We are invited to do the same. Let the church say amen.